So glad you guys are here today with us because we have with us Mark Zalewski, like I said, from our Trusted Advisors team, and he's going to let us see behind the curtain a little bit on some cool tactics and stuff that these guys are doing. Mark, welcome to the Business Booster.
Well, thank you very much. You want to pass those presenter privileges over to me, and I'll dive in just a moment.
On their way.
But yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I always love joining, and I know this is a little bit different than a lot of other people do, but I like to keep it really informal and just show you a little bit behind the curtain about what I actually do on a day-in, day-out basis with Infusionsoft. So as Matt mentioned, I am on the Trusted Advisor team. So with my counterpart, Michael Edelman, we head up the strategy and implementation for our largest partners. So that is, like Matt mentioned, people like Damon John, like Ryan Dice, like Frank Kern, those types of people that are leveraging Infusionsoft as the core of their business or the platform that everything runs off of. Those are the kind of folks that we work with and like to share ideas, pick their brain. We'll help them set up campaigns. And we're also, from time to time, firefighters, right? So as we all know, Infusionsoft, like any other software out there, is never going to be perfect all the time. So we're kind of on standby to help out when things go wrong as well. But that's my role here at Infusionsoft. And what I want to share with you today is a little bit about how we have used evergreen webinars in the past, specifically with Frank Kern's team, to really help leverage the idea of scarcity. So hopefully this isn't something that you're hearing about for the first time, but it's definitely something to really keep in mind. An offer becomes so much more, I guess, attractive if you know that it only exists for a very short window of time, right? So if I know that I can go and pick something up at the store that I've always wanted, but it's never really going to change price, then there's no urgency there. I don't have any drive or desire to make that happen in the very near future. But if I know that a sale on something that I've really wanted is going to end over the course of the next couple of days, that obviously pumps up the urgency to a whole new level, and that is really powerful for growing your business as it pertains to maybe courses that you sell or products that you're offering. You could sell an Infusionsoft package that you would normally retail for $5,000 that, over the course of a couple days, you might offer it for $19.99, something like that. And that's something that I also like to talk about every time I come on these calls is as partners, I love the idea of getting really crystal clear in one specific vertical, something that you've had experience with in the past, maybe before you became a CP, real estate, or you've worked with a lot of doctors and you have a special relationship with dentists and you understand behind the scenes how these types of things work. Be sure that you're thinking about that and how you could build out a number of different campaigns that are going to specifically service that type of people. And that can be a really powerful way to build your business as well, is just to dig into that particular subset of folks. So back to the task at hand here. Let's take a look at this webinar campaign that we've set up. So we can take the idea of this scarcity and build it into a webinar, and specifically an evergreen webinar. And what I mean by that is traditionally webinars have been used in product launches for quite a while now. So you might be coming out with a new product, or it's coming up to a specific season where you want to offer a discount. So you blast your list over and over and over again and invite everyone to come to that webinar, and hopefully everything goes well. You have a launch strategy associated with it, and you might make a couple great sales. Well, an evergreen webinar is that same idea, but without any sort of seasonality or time constraint associated with it. It can run at any time, and for each individual person that joins that webinar, it's going to seem like a unique launch experience to them. So what I'm going to talk about today specifically references EverWebinar, and just like always, I know that there's a ton of softwares out there that will do the types of things that I'm sharing with you. So please don't take this as a personal endorsement of EverWebinar by Infusionsoft. It's simply what I have used in the past to accomplish this. So Keep in mind, if there are any other softwares that you've used, you can probably tweak what I'm showing with you today a little bit to accomplish the same type of thing. But essentially, with EverWebinar, once you set it up, someone would come to a landing page and it would say, oh, hey, Mark, we're glad to see you. Do you want to register for the next webinar that we have coming up? And that would dynamically look at the current date. So it would say, okay, it's Wednesday morning. The next webinar that we have available is going to be plus 2 days from now and plus 3 days from now. So, oh, Mark, we've got another webinar coming up on Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific and Saturday at 9 a.m. Pacific. And then once someone registers for that, it just appears that that webinar is live for them when they arrive on that Friday morning date. So I would send out all those reminders ahead of time, probably 24 hours in advance, maybe 30 minutes in advance, send them a text message, something like that, just driving them to that webinar. And they're going to come into that page, and it's actually going to look like it's that live webinar that's starting. And in actuality, it's just going to be behind the scenes a video that you have set up to just autoplay at that specific time. Now, one thing that I do want to point out here is I'm by no means suggesting that you should be doing something disingenuous with the people that come to this webinar to see you. I know something that Frank does specifically that I really like is he actually does come on. He will restrict the amount of times that these are available. So instead of saying, hey, everyone that sees this landing page can come and see, plus 2 and plus 3 days available, he will only do them on Tuesdays and Thursdays or something to that effect. And he'll come on live at the beginning and say, hey guys, this is really important content and I really want to ensure that you're going to see everything that I've laid out for you in exactly the way I've intended. And because I fumble around sometimes when I'm live and I tend to ramble, I just recorded the next bit for you. It's just so I could have it polished and make everything look great. I think that's a really good strategy. And then he'll a lot of times hop back in on the end for live Q&A. So you can get a little bit creative with that, but that's the idea or the strategy behind an evergreen webinar. And so what you're looking at on my screen, hopefully, Matt, can we see this here?
Yep.
Excellent. So this is the campaign that backs into that live webinar. So I just want to walk you through a little bit of what I have set up today, and then specifically what I want to drill down into is this 4-day open cart, so that scarcity that I mentioned at the outset. But I'll do a quick walkthrough of the rest of this just at the outset here. So essentially with EverWebinar, it integrates with Infusionsoft, so you could apply a tag at the outset that says, okay, Mark is registered for this campaign. So in this first sequence, all I want to do is I want to remove that registration tag. And the reason that I want to do that is, as I'm sure you're aware, you often will register for a webinar that you just don't end up making, right? Something comes up. So we want to give people the opportunity to come back in and loop into that presentation. So if they do no-show, EverWebinar will apply a second tag that says that, and we'll drive them into that reattend, and we'll just say, hey, we want you to see this content. It's really cool. Please, select another time that works well for you. Here's what we've got. And we can try to get them to re-register. And if they do, it's that same registration tag, but just like any infinite loop inside of Infusionsoft that circles people back around, that registration tag is going to hit here, and then loop back around here and hit here again. So the idea is just to have this loop here that can keep people going if they miss out, so that we can ultimately drive them where we want them to go to our attended sequence here. So if we've attended, we have a blank sequence here because this isn't important, because now what we want to do is understand, okay, how long did that person stay, right? Was that content engaging? Did they stay until the very end? But essentially what you can do in EverWebinar, and I know you can do this in the other webinar softwares as well, is you can apply a tag at a specific timestamp. And what you want to do here is, obviously in the course of that webinar when you're setting that up, you're going to want to build up into your offer. So, hey, I have this vertical built out for real estate agents. I usually sell this at $5,000. If you want a full implementation, it's $10,000. But today I've come up with a package that I think is really going to help a couple people who are struggling to get started in the industry. It's really going to help you get started. So if you purchase with me in the next 4 days, then we're going to drop that price down to $9.99. So that's your call to action, and we want to know if someone made it there, right? Because that's going to influence the language that we communicate with them after the fact. So every webinar will say, yes, someone made it to the 36-minute mark when your call to action was first introduced, or no, you know what, they actually dropped off beforehand. So let's hop into this 4-day open cart. So essentially the idea here is I have a product that's $5,000, and for the next 4 days, you're going to be able to get it for $9.99. But if you don't come in the next 4 days and make that purchase, you will not have the opportunity to come in and purchase that price again. And it is really, really critical, in my opinion, that you hold fast to that 4-day deadline. Because if you start to get a reputation for, oh, you know what, Mark offers discounts all the time, and you know what, you could probably sneak back in, or you could shoot him an email and he'll likely drop that price for you. If you get that reputation, then it kind of destroys a little bit of the power behind this 4-day open cart. So essentially in Infusionsoft, what we want to do is we have 2 separate order forms, right? One for $9.99 and one for $5,000. And for that first 4 days after that webinar is over, we want someone to be directed to that page that has the $9.99 offer, and afterwards we want to flip that back so they can only see the $5,000 offer page. So inside of this sequence, we're essentially going to do 2 things. And this track down here is actually what is going to open up, and I'm using open in air quotes here, is going to open up our cart. And previously, it was kind of difficult to do this in Infusionsoft, and people would use plus this smart links to do this. But with some of the recent developments in the campaign builder, specifically the set field value, you can now do this all natively within the software. So as soon as someone has finished our webinar, we know they've seen our call to action, they're going to hit both of these start buttons simultaneously. And the first thing that we want to do is set a field value. So what we're going to do is create a custom field, and my custom field here in this example is just webinar open cart, right? And this custom field can actually be a URL. So Infusionsoft knows that it needs to hyperlink out to a specific page. And essentially what we want to do is say, okay, that page is, and obviously I've just got Google in here, google.com/discount, right? So this is going to be pointing towards my page for $9.99. And then that's going to be open for 4 days. And then after the 4th day, we're going to come back in and reset that same custom field value to something different. So in this case, I want to just reset it to my full price. So this would move it from that $9.99 back to that $5,000 value. Now, the trick is, well, what happens if I send someone an email and it says, hey, sorry, the offer is expired, it's no longer relevant? Well, if you hadn't set it up the way I'm going to show you, they would be able to go into one of these emails and just click that hyperlink and go to the discount page and still have that offer, right? So we need to do something a little bit trickier here. So inside of this email, instead of hyperlinking to that discount page, we want to merge in that custom field URL. So I've got this set up here, and essentially if I click this link button, you see that the URL that I'm directing people to is actually that merge field. So it's going to just pull in as soon as someone clicks this page. So this is really important. If someone clicks this link 15 days later, and as soon as they click this link, it's going to go in and ask Infusionsoft, hey, what is the URL for this? Where should I send this person? So it's actually going to look at that custom field URL and see, ooh, the offer is expired, it's back to the full price, and it's going to send them to the full price rather than the discount. So that's really important if you're trying to make it so someone can't go back in and look at a previous email to get that discount offer. So I'll just do this real quick, and here's the discount offer. So this is the hyperlink that I want to create. Down here, I'm just going to come into my merge fields, contact fields custom, come all the way down to my webinar open cart. I'm just going to grab this and copy it, and then I'm going to hyperlink here. and I just have to drop this hyperlink right behind there, and there I go. I've got my discount offer, and then you can write all the sales copy that you want here. So I would also highly recommend hitting people over and over during this 4-day open cart window. I've got just a couple emails here. I love hitting people across multiple channels. So if you do have a text messaging service that you use pretty regularly, you might want to send people some sort of text message notification that this is expiring. And this is particularly powerful here. I've seen a lot of people have a lot of success with emails that say, hey, this offer expires today at midnight. And they'll send them a text message or something to that effect a little bit before that expiration is going to happen. But just really hammering in on the fact that they're not going to be able to get this product at that price for very much longer. And I want to be cognizant of our time here, but I do want to show you one last thing here, and this is this final sequence. So first of all, if ideally what happens is they purchase our product, they're just going to get pulled through and hit this goal that I've set up, right? But what happens if they don't purchase our product? So that could be one of a number of different reasons, right? But a couple of the common reasons would be I'm just not ready for it. I want to buy this at some point, and I know this is the right product for me, but just not perfect timing for me. Or the other is, hey, you know what? This is just too expensive. I'm just getting started, and I can't afford purchasing a $1,000 product. That's not right for me. So a lot of times, people will either, number one, for that first scenario, we could put them into a long-term nurture that puts them over the course of 3 months and says, hey, Mark, you know what? Maybe this wasn't the right time for you. That's okay. I'm going to continue to send you some really good educational tips to hopefully help boost your business until you might be ready to make this type of investment. So that would be option number one. Or option number two, if it is just too expensive of a product, this is a perfect opportunity to lead into a downsell. So you know what? If a $1,000 price point is too steep for you at the moment, maybe we should back you up. And I do have an introductory level product that starts at $199. It's a little bit less hand-holding from me personally, but you know what? It'll have videos, it'll have a ton of great information, and it'll definitely get you on the right path to put you where you want to be eventually. So either of those two different tracks would be applicable for this sequence that we have in here, and I've just taken some notes here as well. Another thing you might do is if you say, well, I don't know which one it is it just not the right time or is it too expensive? Well, you could drop a survey in here and ask that question, right? A lot of people always ask me, well, how am I supposed to know? Well, you aren't going to know, right? Only the person that didn't take the action you want them to is going to know the answer to that question. And a lot of times if you just ask them what it is, they'll tell you. And then you can create the different tracks that will speak to their specific objection or their specific hurdle for coming on board with that. So that's definitely something I would think of. And the last thing down here that I wanted to mention, if they leave before the offer, you can still treat them the same way. You could still open that cart up and have it open for 4 days. Obviously, you want to change the messaging around a little bit and say, hey, Mark, it looks like you had to jump off before we got to the meat of the webinar today. Here's what you missed. Here's the offer that's on the table. Or you could try to loop them back into a webinar. However you want to do it, I think there's really not a right answer, but just conceptually thinking about what the proper workflow or the proper path that you want to lead these people down is, and then just building that into the campaign. So I am going to wrap up here, guys, and see if you have any questions. But like I did last time, I am more than happy to push this campaign into your application if you think that it would be useful, or you want to take a little bit deeper dive into this 4-day open cart strategy. Like I said, I've taken some notes and left some examples in here for you to take a look at. And this strategy is applicable far beyond just evergreen webinars, right? The 4-day open cart is really powerful. So take a look at it and see how you can fit it into your business and make it work with the way that you like to push your product sales. So Matt, if you could chat in my my email address. That would be great.
There it is.
Awesome.
There it is.
Perfect. So there's my email address in the chat, guys. And if you just send me an email and just make sure you include your app name. So HG207 is mine. Just throw your app name in there just so I know where to drop that campaign, and I will push that right into your application.
This is awesome, Mark. Wow. Thank you so much. I love, and there's so many different tactics that you're using here that are just so strong. And obviously, it's this kind of tactic that's helping, some of our most successful trusted advisors and partners do some really incredible stuff. And something I think about is, a lot of times we associate webinars and things like that with, info marketers and kind of success coach type of businesses. But so many of our partners are sales and marketing and business strategy consultants, right? And so this is something that you can apply using leveraging the knowledge that you have through webinars and other types of events, but specifically through webinars, and you can leverage this for selling your own services and putting packages together. Like Mark mentioned, an Infusionsoft package that might include some advanced implementation or coaching or maybe some reporting services or whatever the case is. Man, this can be used in a lot of different ways. It's pretty radical. Thanks so much, Mark. And guys, again, I see you guys chatting in your app names there. Go ahead and shoot Mark an email. We won't be keeping track of the app names from the chat here. I apologize for that, but yeah, go ahead and shoot Mark an email. And if you have any questions for him, he's a generous guy, always happy to help and answer any questions you have and give you some tips, advice, or whatever you might need. But yeah, man, thanks again so much for jumping in on this. Awesome.
Absolutely. I'm always happy to come on board and share a few things we're doing. And yeah, just to follow up what Matt said, please feel free to shoot me an email if you have a question on this campaign. Another thing that I would recommend, and I see a lot of familiar names in here, so I know a lot of you guys are doing this already. The Facebook groups that are out there about Infusionsoft are fantastic. So if you're a certified partner, hopping in the certified partner Facebook group, or heading into the unofficial, I think there's an unofficial open Facebook group, asking these types of questions is essentially just a way to pick the brain of people who have been there and who have done that, right? And that's a really important topic that I cannot stress enough. A lot of people come in and try to reinvent the wheel with marketing when things just like this campaign that I showed you have already been done, and all that it requires is a little bit of tweaking to make that work for your business. So that's something where, Cindy was mentioning with the pre-day at PartnerCon, and PartnerCon itself is just, even if you don't think that there's really many business opportunities there from a partnership perspective, which I would challenge, I think there's plenty of those, but just talking to other people that are doing this Infusionsoft type work is so unbelievably valuable. Just to get in a room with like-minded people like yourself is, in my opinion, invaluable. So I will be at PartnerCon, Matt will be at PartnerCon, and we would love to see you guys there as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, be sure you guys are there.